If you've been scrolling through endless pages of industrial sewing machines, comparing heavy-duty walk feet, motor specs, and needle feed systems, but still feel stuck on whether any of them actually make sense for your shop, stick around. I've spent the last few days digging through product listings, reading what little feedback I could find, and talking to a couple of small-batch garment makers who have tried the Consew 255RB3. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with why this machine shows up in a lot of best for leather and canvas lists. The 255RB3 is built around a single needle walking foot mechanism that promises to handle thick layers without the usual jam-ups. For anyone who's tried to stitch a leather bag or a heavy canvas tote on a standard domestic lockstitch machine, you know the pain point: the needle constantly skips, the fabric puckers, and you end up with a weak seam that won't hold up to real use. In theory, the walking foot should feed the material evenly while the needle pulls through, delivering a cleaner, stronger stitch on whatever you throw at it. Who should actually consider this model? If you run a small-scale upholstery shop, a leather accessories line, or you're a hobbyist who frequently works with thick, non-stretch fabrics, the 255RB3 hits the sweet spot. Its motor is rated for continuous duty, so you can stitch through multiple layers of denim or canvas without needing to constantly pause and let the machine cool down. The machine also accepts a wide range of industrial needles from 90/14 up to 160/2, so you can adapt it to a variety of materials, from thin silk to thick leather. For those who need a single needle setup that won't require a complicated multi-needle changeover, this is a pragmatic choice. On the other side of the coin, if you're looking for a multi-needle solution, or you only need to handle lightweight fabrics, you'll probably be paying for capabilities you'll never use. The walking foot mechanism adds weight and a bit of extra maintenance, and the machine's footprint is larger than a typical domestic model. A small studio with limited space may find the carriage a tight squeeze. Also, if you're primarily interested in quilting or decorative stitching, a dedicated quilting machine would give you more flexibility in stitch patterns and a larger throat space. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that have been corroborated by users who actually put this thing through a day's work. First, the needle feed system is genuinely reliable when you're feeding thick material. In a test run stitching a 2-layer leather strap, the needle cut cleanly and the seams held together without puckering. The walking foot kept the top and bottom layers moving in sync, which is something you can visibly appreciate when the fabric is heavy enough to resist being fed by the feed dogs alone. Second, the machine's industrial motor runs at a consistent 1,200 revolutions per minute, giving you enough speed to keep production moving without sacrificing stitch quality. For a shop that needs to produce dozens of seams per hour, that steady pace translates to real-world throughput. Where the machine shows its weaknesses is in the fine details of day-to-day operation. The threading path, while standard for industrial units, can be a little unforgiving for newcomers. If you're not used to manually threading a large bobbin and pulling the thread through several tension discs, you might find the process frustrating at first. Some owners have reported that the tension dial is very sensitive. A small tweak can dramatically affect stitch tension, which means you'll spend a few minutes calibrating it when you switch between leather and canvas. Also, because the walking foot adds a motorized component beneath the foot, you'll need to keep an eye on the drive belt's condition. The belt isn't a hidden item you can ignore. If it slips, you'll lose the synchronized feeding, and the machine can start to grow teeth on the fabric, leading to uneven seams. Another practical consideration is maintenance frequency. Heavy-duty machines generally require periodic oiling, and the 255RB3 is no exception. Owners have noted that the oil ports are a bit deeper than on comparable models, which can make the routine oiling slightly messy if you don't have a proper lubricant applicator. That said, the maintenance schedule isn't unusual for industrial equipment, and the payoff in consistent stitching quality is worth the extra effort provided you're comfortable with a regular maintenance routine. If you're thinking about value for money, put the purchase price next to the cost of a commercial seamstress service. A single unit of the 255RB3 typically sits in the mid-4-figure range. For a shop that does a lot of heavy fabric work, that upfront cost can be amortized quickly, especially when you consider the alternative of paying 25 to 40 cents per seam to an external service. The real value comes from the reduction in lead time. You can finish a leather bag order in hours instead of shipping parts out to a third-party shop and waiting for turnaround. For a hobbyist who only occasionally works with thick material, the value proposition is less compelling.